here, maybe. Alright guys, I'm live again. Now this event, this morning we were trying to make the browser history, and also we thought of making another table called fine, cause I wanted to track the fines a person accumulates, and it seems like the best thing that we can do right now is to make another table called fines, cause we have already made borrow history and I don't want to delete that from the database. So the easiest way is to make another model. So let's do it. Class fine, which should be made from base. What is base, by the way? Declarative base is base. So it's an object from derived from SQLAlchemy's class declarative base. Every class has to inherit that. So I did that, and after that, what should I have? I should have before this I can simply write it right here, but let's just make this formal, and let's go to eraser.io and let's make the tables right there, the design right there, just so that it doesn't like clash with our project. Alright. There we go. చెప్పరా ఇంట్లో డ్రైవింగా లేదురా నాకు తెలిసి yeah, I guess I have to log in. Library system, we already made a design, beautiful design right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make another table, and that we're gonna make it color yellow, and attributes that should be in fine are transaction ID. Cause why do we need transaction ID, by the way? Do we need fine ID? Cause just to uniquely identify every table, every entry of the fine. I mean, we can have, it won't hurt actually. Fine ID is something, and transaction ID is a it is also a number, and it's a foreign key that we get from borrow history. It's a number, it's a primary key, and the other two fields are these two, right? Fine ID and transaction ID, and fine amount, fine amount, what I'm trying to assume here is for each book, for Okay, but fine amount might differ from book to book, cause it's not about the book, it's about the amount of time that he has, the amount of time that he has not written the book, the amount of time, the expired time, right? So the fine amount might differ. So every transaction should have a fine amount that should be calculated. All right, that should be calculated, and what should I do? Fine amount, and finally paid or not. We'll have a boolean called paid or not. We'll have a boolean paid or not. So that makes sense. That makes sense. And borrow history, right? Borrow history dot borrow history dot trans ID. Where is trans ID? Borrow ID. Actually makes a one-to-one here, doesn't it? Because for every transaction, no, it's not a one-to-one map. It's a what? I don't know, guys. It might just be what? What does one to many? Is it a one to many? All right, let's check previous things. For each copy, there can be many in borrow history. For each copy ID, there can be many copy IDs. So for each transaction, is there a single transaction there? For each transaction ID, do we have a single transaction ID? I mean, will it repeat? Let's ask ChatGPT. I've always been unsure about this. Hey, what is the relation between trans ID and and what? And find table. Is it one too many or many too many or what? That depends on your business rules. For a typical library system, I'd make borrow history 1 to 0.1. One borrow transaction can have at most one fine. Alright, that makes sense, right? That's what I was saying. It is a one-to-one approach. A fine belongs to exactly one borrowed transaction. For every transaction, there will be only one fine associated with it. They aren't okay. It's not like that. Late, damaged book fine, lost cover fine. Okay. Oh my god. I could actually think it like that. That could make sense. Then you would remove unique is true. The fine table might have these fine ID, transaction ID, amount, reason, and status. Many to many can't be that, right? You can't have a fine shouldn't belong to multiple borrow transactions. Fine 7 can't be in borrow 1 and borrow 2. So borrow 101. For a borrow 101, you can have multiple multiple fines, right? That actually makes perfectly good sense. Should we go with that? Okay, I would like to go with that. And also how do we move one to one? In SQLAlchemy, and one-to-one relationship is mostly one to many with a unique constraint of the foreign key. With a unique constraint of the foreign key. Okay, transaction ID for a borrow ID 101. For the borrow ID column, you can't really have 101 again. Okay, that makes sense. Alright. Nice. Rise and shine. That makes sense. Kana is making sense now. Now that it is making, let's go to this and let's say for every borrow ID, let's say for a borrow ID 101, you can have multiple finds. You can have multiple fine IDs. Borrow history dot fine ID. That makes sense. Am I writing correctly? సరే రా ఏం కాదులే ఏమవుతుంది ఎవరు చూడాలి సార్ ఏం కాదురా అలానే ఉంటుంది మరి కార్పొరేట్ మైండ్ సెట్ కూర్చోండి గైస్ వి గాట్ న్యూ పీపుల్ బాబాయ్ ఎంతమంది చూస్తున్నారు చూడు 000 మనం ఊరికే ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ చేస్తాం ఎందుకు చూస్తాం so what I was gonna do is to have this borrow history dot not borrow history, it is fine dot fine ID, right? I guess this would be the correct. Let's ask ChatGPT. How is this? This should make perfect sense. The first two, okay, the third one, but the third one is backwards. You want to think which table owns the foreign key. Okay, one user. We got to Lemora lemon rice. Lemora building with FastAPI. Building with FastAPI. 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 Yeah, yellow. What do you mean the third one is backwards? One user can borrow many books over time. No. ఎవరెవరు బాబాయ్ average duration 14 minutes but అక్కడ దాకా వెళ్ళారన్న chat rate 1 because fine ID is the primary key of the binding. అది కూడా దాన్ని ఫారెన్ కీ లేదు
అది ఛానల్లో పెట్టారు ఛానల్లో నేను ఆటోమేటిక్ రాలేదు
one transaction fee because find ID is the primary key of the find table. చేస్తా 23 minutes దా అన్లిస్ట్ చేస్తా తయారు చేయడానికి ఏం లేదు కదా
మరి ఏం అడిగితే చేయలేదు ఇప్పటికి ఇంగ్లీష్ చెప్పామని ఒక్కటి చేయరా ఒక్కటి చేయరా అడిగితే
చేస్తాలే చేస్తా
చెప్తున్నాడు కదా
ఇది లైవ్ స్ట్రీమ్ చేస్తుంది అంతే వీడియోలు చేయడానికి ఇంకో డిఫరెంట్ ఉంటుంది అరే కలిపారు all right where were we this guy is saying my relation is wrong what I thought was for a single borrow ID for a let's say 101 we will have multiple fine IDs that does that make sense 181 182 I mean it kind of does right why is it wrong let's say what I thought was for a borrow ID 101 we can have multiple fine IDs i.e. multiple records in fine table and that's exactly the question that determines the relationship. If you're thinking borrow 101 is fine 1 yeah then yes borrow history 1 too many fine but ask yourself in your current system what is a fine the fine is only you return the book after a due date then each borrow transaction can only generate one overdue fine what I do since you're designing this yourself think ahead a little I'll probably make even if you if today you create one fine okay that is what I'm doing maybe ChatGPT is a little behind my thought alright so let me explain chat hey that is what I am doing one too many so say would this be correct if I do it no if you're not modeling you're not if you're modeling not if you're modeling a one to many relation you're comparing the wrong columns you should be asking which column in fine points back to borrow transaction what do you mean by that you should be asking which column in fine table points back to borrow transaction to the borrow transaction the column should be like trans ID is that alright integer foreign key borrow history is foreign key right yeah that is what I was doing so the relation is borrow history dot trans ID for each transaction in the borrow history table so borrow 101 find dot trans ID what happens to find dot trans ID you will have multiple way to represent foreign keys. Why not find dot find ID, cause multiple records are identified with find in find table, right? What I'm trying to get to is I don't really understand why you need to deal with only borrow history and trans history. This is the exact point where people learn the difference between a primary key and a foreign key. Okay, that means this guy is like shading on my basics. So let's see. Let's say you have a borrow history trans ID 101. Alright, we got that. I have made a transaction and I have accumulated 3 finds, right? So in the find table I will have 1, 2 and 3 find here, find ID and find ID identifies the find record and trans ID identifies which borrow transaction that file belongs to, right? Yeah. Ask yourself, how do I know that find 2 belongs to borrow 101? So how can we know that find 2 belongs to borrow 101? Because of find.trans ID we'll get to know that, of course. Only find.trans ID is the bridge between those two tables, right? We got borrow history right here, we got transaction the find right here. So let's say we got transaction 101 and 101 has accumulated 3 finds. So the only thing that bridges between find and borrow is according to that. Apologies for the interruption, but alright, find ID, trans ID, we got 101. So okay, identifies a find record. Trans ID identifies which borrow transaction the find belongs to. So how do you say because of find or transaction, not because of find? Okay, that makes sense. The value 2 has no connection with 101. Think of it like this. Yeah, think of it like this. User ID is 4. Borrow user ID has made user ID 4 has made two transactions. 101 and 102. Why don't we do users dot because trans ID identifies the borrower record, not the user. Okay, trans ID identifies. So instead, what we do is users dot user ID for a user, for every user ID here, for every user ID here, we got. So I guess we have to see what we have to see. Now I get it. Now I get it. While making the design, I should actually write it in obsidian. While making design to write these relationships, one should look at the bridges. One should look at the primary key of a table and how it maps to the. Okay, that is the mapping here. Okay, that makes sense now. All right. So, how do I write this? Borrow history dot borrow ID actually maps like dot, not find id but borrow id, right? Hopefully that makes some sense. Let me see, where are my tables for all? There is the table. All right. All right, guys. I have made the database. You know, whatever. I have made the database design. Now let me write it in my obsidian first off. And also, I'll get this from here. How do I fucking import this? Import. Export session. All right. And database design. And let me just do this. All right. All right. .com. And after thinking after thinking a while, we thought I thought of making a new table called find that stores the fine amount each person makes, right? And also something that is important, the relations between tables, right? What are the relations that we got here? So we got four different I different tables storing four important entities that are vital when managing a live man system, right? Library management system. For a library management system, you need we have four different tables. They are related each other. They are related to each other. Of course, they are related. For example, let's say for each copy ID in folks, for each copy ID in folks, we have multiple copy IDs in borrow history, right? Because many people can have the copy. Many people can have copy. Maybe not together. But they can have the copy, right? So the relation can be written only related that we have written it, these two things, designs, I can actually confidently go through making my tables, right? Table name, what should I keep the table name as? I will not take any risks because I don't really remember when to use the table name and the class name, so I'll just keep it as fine, right? Same as the class name, just so that I won't get any clashes. And transaction ID is a column, right? It's a column, and it is an integer, and also it is a foreign key, so it is a foreign key. So let me copy this. It is a foreign key, but it's not from bookstop copy id, rather it is from borrow history dot trans id on delete cascade nullable false. You can't have it as a null. So we have trans id, we have also fine id. It's like that column, it is an integer, and primary key is true, so this is the primary key. Nullable is of course false, you can't have it null. Alright, again, no problem. After fine id, what we have, the fine amount, let's say amount, and also one thing that I forgot to add. Oh my god, I did the same mistake again. Alright, it's alright. One thing I forgot to add was a little thing that I could add right now. Header not is one thing, status is another thing. Not even status, the reason maybe. Yeah, or you can just say find type, whatever. I mean, reason makes sense. It's a string, that's it. Alright, I should be importing this one, to be honest. Let me export this, and I'll keep it in my obsidian. This, right? There's the time. Alright. Elna naduva. Hey, this is like in basic sense. Copy path as obsidian URL, and I want to paste it right here, like Control Z. I'll delete this though. Right, that makes sense. Reason is the string that I have. Alright, let me get to my code again. Amount is a column. Alright, it's a column. I'm gonna make a column. And is it an integer? Of course it is. It is an integer. I don't really have huge amounts. No, I don't have huge amounts. And another thing is, this is not primary key. So what do I do? Primary key false. primary key false and nullable. Can I have a null? I mean, you can have no. If you are adding it to the file record, how would you want to keep it as a null? That wouldn't make any sense. So amount, line ID, stance ID, and reason column. Should I have it as reason or like? Bro, what did ChatGPT name? I mean, I know I'm a little dependent on ChatGPT, but ChatGPT names things really good. I am dependent on it at this point. So, what did this motherfucker say? Reason. Oh, bro, that is some irony. Reason. Okay, reason. This is a string. This is not any other thing. This is a string, and a primary key false and nullable. Nah, this is also false. I don't want this as null. I want it to be filled. And status. Status. Column. So I'll make this as a column. And I want. Is this a boolean? Is it a boolean? I want to keep it as a bool because you either pay it or you don't. That's what I think. You either pay it or you don't. There is no in between. There aren't any discounts. If there are manually, the admin should manage them, at least for now. The primary key is of course not true, it's false. And nullable. Nullable default false. Default it's false. So the default value is false. I don't think I have to talk about nullable, right? Let's ask ChatGPT just to get some bharosa. Do I have to add nullable is true to? I don't think I have. You don't have to. Thank God I don't have to. Alright. I have made the. Let me just review my table again. I have defined table which has stance ID, which has fine ID, amount, reason, and status. Alright. Why don't we make it? I mean, why don't we just hit the server, run the main. Let's see where this takes us. Yeah. Hell yeah. Alright. Okay. Clock real time, import error, clock. Where is this, bro? Model.py. When did I do that? Clock? What do you mean clock? Bro. This freaking thing imports something without my permission. Alright. This should make sense. This is now running my server. So let's see if there are any changes in. Do I have to start pgadmin again? I don't know how to refresh it. That's the reason I've been starting it again. It's kind of funny. Oh damn. Yeah, the changes would definitely reflect. Okay. With this, what I'm going to do is, now that I have find table, all of this just to get this one thing, how much money that Mahesh Babu has to pay to the library, right? Mahesh Babu seems like a guy who wouldn't return his book on time. So I just feel like he should have some kind of fine, right? Yeah. So what I'm trying to also, while while the PG admin is loading. Let us make some 30 drawings, and we'll get to the and let us plan our whole, let us scheme our own things. So what do I want here, sir, with the find table is whenever I get to a user and say get user I want to be able to see the find a user has, find the user has. It's pretty good. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, you can go anyways. Let's ask ChatGPT. Hey, chat. I want you to give your opinion in what is the spelling of opinion of opinion. Oh my god, I'm so bad at spellings. Opinion on something. Opinion on, why do we have to say opinion on whether I need to need to whether I should be showing the user with fine and books that the guy holds every time I fetch him, or should I just go with another route? Also, should I make this like should I go fine or users slash for an API? I would separate these concerns. Do not return everything every time. If someone does, I would return username and this, maybe few highlights, summary, maybe books forward count and unpaid fines count. Okay, that would make sense. I would do that, but I would not automatically include every book that he has followed. Imagine Mahesh. Oh my god, this guy is fucking hearing me out, bro. Oh, this is crazy. In this economy, this is crazy. Separate routes. I would have separate routes, right? Users slash for this is a very common test slash borrow slash finds. All right. I would probably support both. Okay. User specific, you can go there. Global, you show me all the finds in the system. What this guy would build is this, right? Get users with a specific ID, get users with a specific ID in the borrows that this guy has made, get users in the finds that this guy has made, post borrows, post returns, and yeah, get fines ID and page. This scales nicely and matches our production API are organized. Alright, I'll be right back. I'll go to loan, come back again. We will try to make something, and design is something that we can actually, I know we should be doing it beforehand, but at this stage I feel like I should be just go with the flow. I should be like going with the flow, and after that maybe restructure the code itself. Okay, today the goal is I have to get my ass to authentication or else I'm just cooked. So yeah. will be right back. 3 minutes. Start. The sky, let's go. There we go, guys. I'm back on an hot Sunday. It's 6:37 evening. It's really sticky. It's very humid. And what I'm doing, and I'm employed and I'm coding. That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. All right. Where was I? So PC admin has started, and let me check whether the table, whether we have made the table. All right. Local Postgres and yes, we do have 4 tables. Let's go. Thank God. Excuse me. All right. Where was I? I have made the table. Now, what I need to do is make another freaking drop. Find.py, find.py, and what I want to do is make all the imports. I will copy paste it from the user.py and After this, I want to make a router object, which is an object of API router, and prefix of this is like what, slash slash find. Also tags would be a list. Mind you, it's a list. Today what I've done is I forgot to put in a list, and it actually gave me so much trouble. So I would do that. And after this, దీని తర్వాత ఏం చేద్దామంటే అండి, మనం కొంచెం we will make router dot chalo post, right? So we have to post a file, right? We have to post the file. So how should we be posting the file? Alright, first off I would do that and def list a fine, list all fines, not just the fine, list all fines. Right, I don't want you to list a single fine, because it is going to be really what do you say, a tedious process, right? To list each and every fine. What I want is to get an inference from the previous table. What is the table? The table's name is borrow history. From borrow history, I want to list all the fines that are there till now, right? How should I do this? What I am thinking right now is, see, in fine table we can have all the transactions. Okay, we can get all the fines. How do we add fines? How do we add? Let's think about this for a second. I know I'm always taking this SQLAlchemy out just to do random things, but believe me, I'm trying to think something here. Fines. We got fines. How do we add fines? We have the borrow history. Alright. What I want to do is for we will get, okay, we can do something like this. For every returned on, right? Let me go to pro. For every returned on or none, for every returned on not none. Chalo, first of all, let me put this in words, and I will think about the other problem that I am trying to deal with right now. So what I'm trying to do is I want to add fines into the fines table, sir. So how will I do it? For every returned on not none, what would that mean? The copy has been returned. So for every returned on, what should I do is I should check whether the guy has returned it at the correct time or not. And we have before for that, right? We have the before column for that, right? We have the before column for that. Using the before column, using the before column for every returned on not none. Using the before column, we check whether what is the spelling of weather? WETHER, spell the weather. So oh my god, thank god. Weather, we check weather. We check whether we have a fine or not. First off, for every return down, we will check whether we have a fine accumulated or not. If we have a fine, so if we have a fine, we will add it to the fine table, right? We can just simply, if we have a fine, add. If we have a fine, oh my god, what the hell, bro? Fuck, shit, bro. If we have a fine, we have to add it to the. If we have a fine, we have to add. You know what we have to do? If we have it is a fine table, right? We have to add it to the fine table. All right, that makes sense. So let's say we have transaction 101 and 102 and 103 violating these. So we'll add all of them. We will add all of them. The fines. And at first they are not paid. And at first they are definitely not paid. The fines are not paid, right? You have a fine, they are not paid. So so they are not paid. So another time, if I with the route, there is a problem with this. There is a problem with this. You know what the problem is? The problem is every time I hit this route, it goes through the table again, finds keys and host. The problem here is once a fine is issued, it shouldn't be copied, right? Once we have issued a fine on 101, we can't really issue. We can issue another fine on it, but we can't issue another a fine of the same type. Would that make sense? Because let's say we have 101, 102, 103, and there is a fine. Let's say in this has accumulated fine. This has accumulated. So in the fine table, and in the fine table, you got 101. You have a fine, and late fees. You have 101. You have another type of fine. Okay, and also there is also another thing. That is just the late fine, by the way. We will from the borrow history table, we will only get the late fees fine only. What we have to do is we have to manually add some other fines, right? The fines that are like breaking the cover, or you know. So we need to have two types of post slash fine routes. One that takes in the trans ID inside, goes for that specific fine ID inside, because that for no, we can't take in what we need to do is to taking the transaction ID and we have to make a fine ID with it. Hopefully you guys understand. Let me clear this up for you guys again. So what we are trying to do here is to simply add fines, right? Let's say Mahesh Babu came into our library and he has he has taken a book called How to Be the Greatest Actor in DFI. I know who he is, but let's just say that he took this book, and this guy, even though he's like pretty enthusiastic, but he forgets that he has taken that book, and he actually returns it after the expiry date. Returns it after the expiry date. So we have late fee penalty here. So the book. So not the book, by the way. The transaction. The transaction of Mahesh Babu taking the copy ID with let's say 201 is fined here. The transaction is fined here, right? So let's say the transaction was 101 that Mahesh Babu did this thing. Then 101 gets added into the fine table, right? The fine table gets added with someone that who hasn't that has returned a book on a certain time, that has returned the book on a certain time, but it has expired. That yeah, it has expired the time limit. So we can add him. We can add that transaction ID. Um, we can add that transaction ID. All right. So 101 is added. 102 is something like similar to it. 103 is something similar to it. So we add 101, 102, and 103. But the reason column in the fees is the same for all of these three. The reason is late fee. Late, late, late. It's late for these three guys. It's late for these three guys. If we had to add another fine to the transaction 101, saying कि भाई the 101 transaction, in the 101 transaction, when he is taking the book, he has also broke the cover a little. He has he has torn the cover a little. Then 101, 101 should will get another column. 101 will get another column, right? 101 will get another column. 101 dev gets a manual addition. So we have to write two path operations, two same type of path operations. मतलब one is post, another is also post. What's that? Oh, like two types. Alright, that makes sense. But a problem here that I have is every time I hit this, post from borrow history. If I hit post from borrow history, let's say this Mahesh Babu thing, 101, 102, 103, they got added again, which I don't want. Alright, which I don't want. Once I have added 101, this transaction for once I've added this 101 transaction for the reason late, 101 and late are are to be identified as me. So for the reason late, if I have 101 in fine, I don't want you to do this. Let's make this content, and we'll see what happens after this. List all fine. Yeah. Late fine. Late fee. Late fee fine. This should take the db dot. This should take db object, right? Session object, of course. I should like this. Get underscore db, right? So we have the database object, and I don't think you need any other thing, right? You don't really need any other thing. No, you don't really need any other thing, because for late fees you will have to get info from the borrow history table itself. So it's not like we are taking in any user input, right? Yeah. Maybe the reason I guess you automatically say it's late reason. There is a problem in this too, but let's just say I'm overthinking this. Have this. Now what I want to do is write a query, db.query, and this query should work on what? Models dot borrow history. Models dot borrow history, and I want you to filter out. Models dot borrow history dot returned on is not none. So all the returned books, right? All the returned books are covered with it. Return on, yeah, return on null all the returned books. And also with that, another condition comes. With returned on, I want is v4 minus v4 models borrow history dot b4 b4. So what happens is this guy returns after, right? So can I write something like this? Borrow history, where was I? So models at borrow history dot return on. So what I want to do is return on should be greater than before, right? Will that make sense? Let's just try, right? And I want you to get all of them, right? Not just a single borrow transaction. I want you to give me all of them, because I'm greedy. So let's say transaction, or I can just say trans, even though it sounds weird. Q dot all. I want all of them, sir. Q dot all. And if I want to return this trans, maybe let's just hit this route and see where this will lead us to. Copy, make a new endpoint, add this, and what I will say is fine. it's not a, it's a post type request. So where the hell is that? There it is. Also let me save. What should I save it as? Late fee file. Save it as that. What I'm trying to get, details not found. Alright, this is definitely cause I'm doing the same stupid mistake again of not including the router. Include uh, fine dot route ah router fine dot router. Fine is not defined. What do you mean fine is not defined? I have to. It is fine. There is fine. It is fine only, bro. Where is the main function? Right. Thank God. The server has started again. Let's see. Let's hit the route. I mean, we didn't get anything, but the server didn't fail. So I am not really. Alright. You know what I'll do? This time, I know that this is a list, so I'm gonna do this one thing. Write this for I in trans, cause this is a list, and I wanted to return. Okay, will it return? Bro, how do I return a? Let's search ChatGPT. Where is my chat? How do I return SQL or list object like from db.q.all? I wanna see the rest. This has been a question of fucking decades. So then user is a list. Okay, this is a list of objects that is as simple as that. Pydantic will serialize the list for you, it seems. Then why is it not doing it for me, bro? Okay, now I get. Okay, this is the reason. It's cause I don't have any thing returned, right? I didn't return anything. Alright, that makes sense. So I have to write in another function, bro. This is freaking complicated. I don't think I can get to auth today. But let's just try. Borrow history. What I want to do is I'm gonna do @router dot put, right? All right. Again, let's go there, and I'll go to my path operations, and I'll see. Where did I write put and path? Enter right about them. You gotta be shitting me. So I didn't write about them. So let me just check this. Put and patch difference. Alright. Put replaces an entire resource with completely new payload, while patch applies partial modification to an existing resource. So what I really need to use is a patch request. And do we have a prefix? Not, we don't. So let me just keep it as /for. We'll write it. We'll rewrite it again if we get time. Update returned on. So this is something the admin would have power on. Say if Maestro comes with the book that he has taken, let's say H.C. Verma, and he has come back. Now the admin is the one who has got the authority to update the written down. Right? He has to note down when the book has been written. Right? All right. So what should it take actually? What should it take? Should it take the copy ID? Because the user would have access to only the copy ID, right? Yeah, the user would have the access to copy ID, at least the copy ID. Or you can just give bro, what I'm doing is pretty overtly, I know, but what if the user doesn't have the copy? That should be thought of. What if the user doesn't have the copy ID? How do I get a row? How do I get the transaction? Right? We can get it like this, right? At least you need to know the length on it. So we'll at this point we'll try to assume we know the copy. The user knows the copy ID. At least it is like pasted behind the book. Something like that. Yeah, it has to be pasted behind the book. At this point, this is a basic library system. I don't want to think too much. So, yeah. So I will expect a CID of type int, and also the DB object, the usual is used. Session is what? It's not update. Depend get underscore db get underscore db get underscore db update written on cid in db session db get that. Alright. What we are trying to write is written on. So I'll get the copy, not just copy cid. How do I uniquely identify? Oh, I can do it like that. Alright. Huh. I can just do it like that. Okay, I got it. We'll write a query deep q, which would which would work on models that borrow history. And what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna filter a row which is gonna match the models that borrow history dot copy ID is copy CID. The copy ID is the CID that we have, and returned on. All right, and return on is none. So the return on, so it hasn't been returned yet, and this copy that has not been returned yet, I want you to get that whole row. That is what I'm trying to say. So the book, or let's say the trans again, q dot first is that, and first is that, and I want you to returned on, the d returned on, decide returned on, which is an int, or is it an int? Is it like timestamp? What is the data type of something that is in time? What is bugs? Okay, borrow history length for timestamp. Okay, it's a timestamp thing. How am I supposed to freaking? Alright, let's ask ChatGPT. Hey, I am taking in the timestamp type input from the query param. What should the data type be? Alright, you're taking a timestamp from a query parameter and using Python. You can use Python state time, of course. I mean, I'm actually thought of using something like that. Import this time is date time. Alright, that definitely makes sense. So where is my freaking code, bro? ये तो रोता TMT है, तो बहुत मुश्किल है date time, turn on date time, right? Alright. Now that we get that book, I want you to. How did we update, by the way? Books, right? Did we update books? No, but we updated user details. Yeah, we have updated user details. Result. Okay, like that. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I keep forgetting things, but it's alright. There are so many things to track. I don't feel like I need to, 10 to 1,000 different things at the same time. So trans dot what? The transaction now has the option return on. Okay, first off, what am I doing here, bro? I need the now that makes sense. Now that return on is the return on. Control V. Bro, what the fuck? Yeah. Alright. Hands that is the return on. And also, now that I've done that, now that I've updated it, what do I need to do? I need to return the trans object. Alright. Return the transaction. Alright. That makes sense. Okay. Alright. Alright, let me send a request. Bro, there are so many endpoints. Can I put these in a folder or something? This is another Far out, far out. I need to save this. How do I need to save this as update return on? Alright, that makes sense. And query parameters, the first query parameter that we have is the return on, right? So I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it right here. I'm gonna paste it right here. And how am I supposed to give the return on? How do I generate time right now? Huh, that makes sense. I'll do something like that, right? That makes sense. That makes more sense, much more sense. Let's say that I don't have to write this. And what I have to do is now is this. Now is datetime dot now UTC. I want you to trans dot returned on is now, right? Whenever I'm hitting this batch request, it actually means कि भाई अभी 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 इसने return करा है. So this guy has written just now. So I want the return down time to be now. Alright, that is way more simpler. I mean, thank God. CID, and also this shouldn't be freaking string. And let's just say, what do we have in our database? Let's see. We got Shamon. There we go. Let's send this. Method not allowed. What do you mean method not allowed? Status code 200. The fuck? Invalidated syntax. I mean, hash should be made. Okay, method not allowed. What does that mean? This is like once in a blue moon error. I've never seen this thing. The fuck? This means 405 method. The URL exists, but you're using the wrong HTTP method. All right. Oh fuck. Oh, I'm sorry for cursing, but this is a patch, right? Why am I doing this, bro? Okay. Yo. I have successfully updated the bridge hand on, baby. Let's go, bro. Oh, in the past hour, I've freaking done nothing, bro. I'll work on it. I'll work on this thing for another 10 to 20 minutes. After this, I'm gonna just go to my granny's house. Well, what the hell? Let's see our database, right? Continue, bro. What the? Why is it not getting reflected, sir? I need to definitely close that. I would wanna open this again. Ah, I mean, same old mistakes I do, right? I should be freaking commit, bro. I need to do that too. I don't need to refresh though. Alright, this should suffice. The same mistakes that I do. Alright, let's hit the route again. Passed. Alright, I don't know why it hasn't returned me trans. Well, let's see if the changes are reflected. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 3 dots full. One for my master. One for. And also. Schizophrenia, bro. ఎట్లానే అవుతుంది చదువుకోకపోతే చిన్నప్పుడు చదువుకో వెబ్క్యామ్ ఎందుకు దిస్ కెమెరా వర్క్స్ ఫైన్ bro I don't have so many sockets bro I can't bro how do what do you mean I can bro I don't really have any sockets see one is for that HDMI cable I got 2 USBs I have another USB though but the problem is I would want to use this for the writing pad and stuff I don't want to use it why are you forcing me to use it bro fuck up stupid ass dumbass your stupidity has led to one thought Mr. Sahan which is what I would want to do is to check the return on is actually okay it wouldn't do that alright let me hit the route again this should actually friggin yeah internal server error let's go I love it when I get errors okay how do I address this error though I know why it came cause Q the trans object has become none so let me address it like this trans is none trans is none I want you to HTTPS raise HTTP exception babe I wanna do that starters dude starters dot I mean I've done this before bad request no 404 not found yeah I should be saying that and also details should say hey I am there isn't a copy with that hasn't been written that CID I know this is a really big exception but I feel like it let's hit the thing again I should be getting the exception alright I'm getting the exception thank God all of this just to do fucking patch and this alright let me add you know what I want to do what I want to do is populate for that let me call my brother bro twin from another mother Mr. Sahan I want to take some help from you ఇప్పుడు చెప్పు so imagine that you are in a క్యాబ్ కాదురా క్యా అన్న కియా కాదురా సచ్చినోడా let's assume you are in a library right yeah do come. And what do you what yeah, there you are. Let's get all the users first off. What? That straight up threw me an error, bro. What the hell? Let's go to users. Why would it? Where is this, bro? Where is this? Where am I freaking lagging? Okay. It shouldn't be throwing an error, bro. 400. Aha! This is the reason. अब बता बेटा, अब बता. You have Sahan. Listen to me carefully, right? इधर है, हाँ. The application is do you wanna the user session? Yes. Chodra. These are all the people we got in our library, in my library, right? Library, public, not private library. So, would you want to join in and become a user in my library? All right. No. Bro, do you think this is funny, bro? I have put almost 15 to 20 hours in this. No, not 15. I have put almost 5, not 5. I have put an hour and a half. Chalo. The thing is, the thing that I'm making is a library management system, right? I am writing different path operations. What do you know by path operations? Yeah, path.
Path operation.
Yeah.
Cool. Operation, I know path.
You don't know both of them combined. I have assumed it because you're dumb as hell.
I just started doing this.
Where is it? Post, add users. Alright, babe. I'm gonna add you, right? You know how I'll add you. I want your name, sir. Your name is Pedi. Alright. That's a very weird name. Contact. What is your contact? Contact. All phone, huh? Bro, this is an integer. What the hell? Is this an integer? No, it's a string. That can actually be your contact, to be honest. Martina Pranam, but I can't accept. 62015 35 49 bro 3339 true. I'ma send this method not allowed. Alright, what have I done again, bro? Hmm? Add users, name and phone. What has failed me now? What do you mean method not allowed? I love you. God, I have 9. Yes, I have done that. Bro, what the hell am I doing, bro? Bro, this prefix thing has actually been a disadvantage rather than an advantage. Now that I have the user, pretty young thing. Peddy. Details. Type missing. Oh, what do you mean missing? I have every freaking thing. Hit the human error again. Let's ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT is gonna save our ass. Fast X a body. Right. Okay. While I'm adding. All right. That's my bad. అరే సెహన్గా నేను ఒక చిన్న తప్పు చేస్తుండేలేరా సారీ ఓకే ఐ కెన్ డూ దట్ ఐ నీడ్ టు యాక్చువల్లీ డిలీట్ దీస్ టూ బాబు బాబు what do we need here sir what is the name Peddi and what is the contact just a sec sir 62015 those are 5 numbers 12362 right so they are 10 numbers all right let's send okay Peddi you have joined my library now that you have why would I give you money bro I can give you there is something that I can give you there are actually two things that I can give you one is this a short the other thing is I can give you a book you wanna lend a book
Yes, I wanna
you wanna take a book
Yeah.
yeah I will lend you a book
Book about how to be a dumbass.
Huh?
Book about how to be a dumbass.
Book about how to be a dumbass so that's a nice thing that you have done so you want to see whether there is a book with the name how to be a dumbass or not right let's get the book let's get books right first off slash Harry Potter there are different types types of ways that I'm gonna get books right you need to give me a book name and that's it alright so what do you want to know do you want to know all the books I want to rename this bro these are all the books that we have the first one is sci-fi genre Hail Mary war action Full Metal Jacket we have that we have Full Metal Jacket another copy of that we have another copy of Full Metal Jacket another Full Metal Jacket and we have a modern mystery called Silent Patient and we have so many and we also have H.C. Verma so a bunch of H.C. Vermas what do you want you don't want H.C. Verma you will take any other book
Any other book?
no H.C. Verma
Not H.C. Verma.
all right what book will you take other than it Hail Mary
That book is very good.
मतलब
And they made a movie. Fingerprints.
yes they have
Very bad book.
yeah trivia na abba okay let me help you borrow a book now this is my important function so for that huh I say live I know you don't have to pay any rupees but if you don't return it on time baby you're gonna have to pay you're gonna have to pay a fine
I'll run away.
you'll run away I'll contact you I got your phone number I got your tab bro GPS
Let's change the phone number.
nah
Change the phone number.
you just can't do that
That book is sake of book, why did I do that?
Of course, bro. You gotta give me your phone number, cause I need to contact you, right? Somehow.
Yeah.
Actually, people in actual libraries, they'll definitely get your address and all of that. Ours is a little lenient, you know. Cause like a guy named Pedi is coming, so I have to give the minimum amount of leniency. Right. What am I doing, bro? So what was you are, bro? This is so I have written so many functions. I can't even fathom what I've written, bro. Feddy.
I think it's overwhelming, right?
Huh?
Overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty much overwhelming. But the CID I don't give a hell about. This is this. And then get all books. Copy here is one. So borrow book. Copy here is one. So now with this, the user with ID 8 is gonna borrow the copy with ID 1. I'm gonna do that. See, you have borrowed this, and you should be lending this before this time, which is actually 30 seconds. If you don't return this in 30 seconds, you will start accumulating a fine.
I can't even leave one. Let's leave one page. One paragraph. What is it?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think this is
It's a tough job, buddy.
fraud like
Hey,
this.
I don't got to make rules here, dog. This ain't mine.
I think this is a fraud. Like
You know, man, this ain't mine.
As per the, I'm trying for this.
You lose your leg. Will you lose your leg?
I'm trying for this.
You are indeed the greatest peddi I have ever seen. You are like peddi. Chedi peddi. Bro, with that,
I want to check. So you have only minimal number of books, right?
yeah.
Why can't you create an API key which contains all the collection of books and use it here
Why can't I take the API key and
of the collection of books? Like there are some sources like where you can take list of movies, list of books.
books? The thing is, I am making your data. What I'm making is a backend, right? I don't start off taking the API key and like filling stuff. That is a one line. Adding an API key and like getting stuff from the internet.
I'm telling that like taking the books from the collection.
Cause basically what I'm trying to do is make a server by my own. This is hand coded, and the other thing is I get that you are saying कि collection of books उधर से ले ले अपना API key से, which I'll do at the end. What I'm trying to do is make the databases, make the functions, make all of that basic, how the things happen. If someone says, if you're borrowing a book, right? If Peddi is trying to borrow a book, Hail Mary, there has to be some kind of link between them, right? The Hail Mary book and Peddi. So I'm trying to make that. I'm trying to make the database. I'm trying to make tables. I'm trying to make records. I'm trying to fetch information from them. I'm trying to update them. And at the end of the day, if you are getting an API key and getting all of that, we will, which we will, of course. It wouldn't really matter much. I mean, it wouldn't differentiate that much. API key is just another way to populate my rows in the database. I can populate my rows anyways, right? Alright. I now have Sir Peddi. Bar of history. If I reload this, I have Peddi. Chalo, I would want to end the stream and hopefully I'll work on the fine and displaying fine stuff, and this ends tomorrow maybe, and I'll start authentication tomorrow. Bye. It's been a great day. Stream.